All right, debaters, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon I bid to all. With a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are gladly able to hear today for our annual RECTO'S Cup Debating Championship. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I thank all of you for joining us today, and I welcome each and every one of you. My name is Aunika Maria binti Azman, and I am your chairperson and timekeeper for today's debate. I would also like to introduce our very esteemed judge to all of you. We have Brother Muslim as our judge today. Before we begin, I will briefly explain the rules. Speeches should be 7 minutes in duration. Speakers exceeding this may be penalized but should never be less than this. A bell will be rung after every consecutive minute. After 6 minutes, the bell will be rung twice. After 7 minutes, the bell will be rung until the speakers stop delivering their speech. POIs can be only offered after the expirations of 1 minute and may not be given after the expirations of 6 minutes. POIs may only be given to opposing teams and should be generally not more than 50 seconds in duration. If the speaker exceeds the 50-second duration, the chairperson may request the speaker to end their POI. The durations of the reply speech will be 4 minutes. Speakers must use formal language. Inappropriate language is prohibited. Debate session will always start with the government first speaker, which is the Prime Minister. It is then followed by the opposition leader, then Deputy Prime Minister, then Deputy Opposition Leader, then Government Whip, and ends with the Opposition Whip. For reply speeches, both government and opposition sides are given 1 minute of preparations for reply speeches. With the rule explained, we will now start with our semi-final debate. The motion before the House this day is that this House, as a citizen of developing countries, would choose to remain in the country rather than move abroad as an expat. The government team in this debate, Sister Atika Natasha as the first speaker, Sister Nisrina Nabiha as the second speaker, and Sister Shazia Sharminas as the third speaker. The reply speech will be delivered by Sister Nisrina Nabiha. And the opposition team in this debate are Brother Amir Firdaus, Sister Falishatun Nisa Hanani, and Brother Ikram. The reply speech will be delivered by Sister Falishatun Nisa Hanani. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Sister Atika Natasha from the government team, to the floor to open the debate.
Okay, I will start my speech in 1, 2, 3. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm standing here as the Prime Minister for today's debate session. So, we from the government side would like to say that we are totally stand with this motion, which is this House as a citizen of developing countries would choose to remain in the countries rather than move abroad as an expat due to we believe firmly with our stance that because our country is dear to me. Okay, so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to define the word of expat, what exactly it is. So an expat, short for expatriate, is a person who lives outside their native country either temporarily or permanently. This usually refers to someone who has chosen to live in another country for work, study, retirement, or other reasons. Okay. So next, I would like to define what are developing countries. Developing countries are those that are considered to have lower levels of economic development as measured by various indicators. These countries typically face various challenges such as lack of infrastructure, political instability, and limited access to resources. They have, in most cases, a medium to low standard of living. So, we from the government side would like to define this motion as citizens who are living abroad for a permanent period of time. There are disadvantages to that. We are going to define the motion as advantageous if a citizen chooses to stay in their native countries they are developing. Moving to my argument, okay. Citizens that choose to stay in their countries, this is due to the strong emotional connection with the family. Some people who choose to stay with their family due to their family is able to support their education and also well-being. Staying in one's home country allows individuals to maintain close relationship with families and friends, as well as participate in their local community and culture. This can be particularly important for those who value social support and the sense of belonging that comes with being part of a close-knit community. For example, staying close to family can provide a support system that can help individuals through difficult times such as illness, loss of a job, or financial hardship. Additionally, staying in one's community can provide opportunities for individuals to participate in local events, festivals, and traditions, which can be an important source of cultural identity and pride. Staying in one's home country can allow individuals to maintain a strong connection to their cultural heritage, language, and history, which can be a source of pride and identity. Having close family and community ties can also be important for personal well-being, as it can provide individuals with a sense of belonging, purpose, and social connectedness. Often, people find that being part of a community provides them with a sense of security and comfort, which can be difficult to replicate in a new and unfamiliar environment. Next, economic stability. For
So I
some, no, can I proceed to my point first? For some people, staying in their home country can provide greater economic stability and job security compared to moving to another country. The economic growth would decrease because more citizens would, if citizens or individuals chose to move abroad, the economic growth would decrease. This is because more labor more labor forces would also be decreased, and if more citizens will move abroad, then tax payment of each citizen, tax payment will also decrease, and that will decrease the government's revenue. Okay, so before I sit down, I would like to emphasize again that we from the government side totally propose this motion, totally stand with this motion 100%, which is this house as a citizen of developing countries who choose to remain in the countries rather than move abroad as an expat, due to we stand with our stance firmly that our country is dear to us. That's all from me. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you to our first speaker, Sister Atika Natasha. Now, please welcome the first speaker of the opposition, Brother Ikram, to open the case for their side. Please welcome.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Speech in 3, 2, 1. Share 3 pieces of framing. The first is, what does a citizen of a developing country look like? It looks like 3 things. The first is that this person is likely to be just a normal individual, just like you and I, which probably means that this person wants some form of financial stability, doesn't really want to live in poverty, wants some sense of security in terms of finances, right? But secondly is that this person most likely also wants some kind of safe environment, a place where he's most likely, like, racially accepted, isn't really that susceptible to crime, most likely wouldn't be imprisoned if they were to criticize the government and stuff like that. The second piece of framing is, what does a developing country look like? Firstly is that usually developing countries have a lot of corruption because they're quite post-colonial states, which means that the governments which were imposed at that particular time doesn't have that good checks and balance mechanisms. Secondly is that they also have quite poor economy by virtue of them developing, i.e. they don't have that much industrialization going on. Thirdly is that there's a lot of racism within developing countries due to the multi-ethnicities which are already there due to also post-colonialism. Fourth is that they usually have political instability because they're quite nascent democracies, and as such it's quite hard for them to practice democratic principles. So if you were to criticize the government, you usually are going to get some kind of backlash, such as imprisonment. And usually the political governments which are formed itself are usually not that stable to begin with, as what can be seen with Malaysia as of now. Third piece of framing is, what does moving abroad look like? It probably means that this person in this developing country is going to move to a more developed country. So it can look like, moving to a Western state, or moving to an Asian country, which is comparatively much more developed. And this person is going to work there, raise a family there, overall just live there, live out their lives there, right? Two burdens that we're going to prove. The first is that this is the only way to increase the quality of life. And secondly, principally, this is the right thing to do. First argument then. Why is it that principally this is the right thing to do and this person shouldn't feel guilty about making this decision? First structural reason is that this person does not owe any moral obligation to stay in the country, in the developing country to begin with. Why is this true? Three reasons. The first is that the government the government of the developing country did not discharge its obligations under the social contract. All governments and all people have an implied social contract between them. The government promises that they'll keep you safe and they'll ensure that you have some kind of financial stability. In return, you're supposed to stay loyal to that particular country. At the point in which the government has failed to discharge its obligation, that's when the people are no longer required to discharge their obligation of remaining loyal to that particular country, which means that at the point in which the government is unable to give a good quality of life to its people, this is when the people are justified in leaving that country. Second reason is that if they were to stay, it's just a futile attempt. They're not going to make any kind of difference. They're not going to change anything. So they're just going to stay there and suffer and not do anything. But third reason as to why this is true is that even if there is a negative impact to them leaving, it is the state's fault, essentially. So here's the thing. Let's say you are a very good doctor and you choose to leave the country because you're still a contract doctor up to this point and you don't have financial stability. Your choice of leaving, even though it leaves a negative impact to the country, is not a fault of yours. Rather, it's the fault of the government, which failed to protect you and incentivize you to stay within the particular country. And as such, that's why it's justified. Two reasons as to why this argument is important. The first is that it proves that it's not immoral for you to leave and be an expat. There's no morality tying you down to stay into your developing country. But secondly, it also means that if you were to impute a liability on people to stay within the developing country, that's when you remove accountability from the failed government of that particular developing country. You no longer blame the government for not producing a good and sustainable society. Rather, you blame the individual for leaving and wanting to make a good living out of their own lives. This is why it's unjustified. Second structural reason then as to why principally it's the right thing to do is that all people have a right to self-determination, and by virtue of staying within that particular developing country, this is when self-determination is going to be inhibited. Why is this true? Two reasons. The first is that all individuals are sovereign, which means that all individuals have a right to determine who and what they become. This includes the right to financial security if they were to put in enough effort. The problem is that within developing countries, regardless of the effort that you put, financial security is something which is a faraway dream, especially if you're not within the elite families who have a very short ticket within these developing countries due to things such as the practice of cronyism. All this goes to say is that self-determination is not particularly available within these developing countries. The second reason is that usually self-determination also includes the ability to change your particular country and the right to criticize your government. This is not necessarily something which is available within developing countries, because most developing countries have governments which are quite strongman governments, meaning to say that any kind of dissent against that government is usually not tolerated. That's why in countries like Singapore, if you were to criticize the government, chances are you're most likely going to be imprisoned for it. One reason as to why this is a very important argument within this debate, right, is that individual rights have to be protected, even if it means that there is going to be some kind of harm towards the country as a whole. And the reason as to why this is so is because the degree of harm that the individual is going to suffer if their rights are not protected is far higher as compared to the harm in which the country is going to suffer. If a doctor chooses to stay within a country that doesn't want to accept it as chooses to maintain this doctor as a contract doctor, that doctor is forever going to live a life of no financial security, having to live paycheck to paycheck. But if he chooses to leave, the country is only going to suffer a smaller degree of harm. That's why we think that this is justified. For this reason, it's proud to oppose. Thank you.
I would like to thank Brother Ikram for their speech. Now, I will call upon the second speaker of the government, is debate by Sister Ha to continue the debate for their side. Welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We, the government side, very much support the motion. This house, as a citizen of a developing country, would choose to remain in the country rather than moving abroad as an expat, because our country is very dear to us. Now, before I go on to my arguments, rebuttals from the opposition side. Now, I noticed that they mentioned about individual rights. It is your choice to whether it is your choice to stay in the country or not. And by supporting the motion, we are not in any way exploiting that right, because again, the motion mentions that we would choose to remain in the country rather than moving abroad as an expat. So that is not human right is not something that we're trying to take away from here, because we choose to remain in the country rather than moving abroad as an expat. Now, my Prime Minister mentioned the points of being closely related emotionally to the family that are in the native country. That strong emotional connection you cannot have when you move away from your family abroad. Okay, so going into my argument now. Responsibility as a citizen of your country. Yes, I'm aware that the opposition said that it is a social contract between a government and a citizen whether or not to stay. If the government fail to provide security and like financial support to the citizen, then the citizen is not required to stay. Again, in this motion, we are not requiring a citizen to stay. As like we, this house as a citizen would choose to remain. So we choose to remain because our country is very dear to us. So as a citizen of the country, we are aware of the impact we have to the country. Yes, we are only like a citizen, an individual, but you are more important than you think. You are right now influencing the people around you to also do the things that you do right now, unintentionally, right? So, for example, you choose to stay in the country because you want to develop your country. You want to be a positive impact to the country. The people around you might even be influenced by that. If you're telling them, oh, I can move abroad if I want to, but I want to stay because I love my country, and like that a constant conversation you have with the people around you can actually influence them as well to also develop their country. So your words mean more than you think. You are more influential than you think you are. Okay, so as a citizen, we are very important. We are very important in the process of developing the country. I know, like, we are only one individual, but if you are a doctor and then you are a very talented doctor, very skillful doctor, and then you choose to move abroad because you don't like the salary you have here, then the country is gonna lose a very amazing doctor, and then one doctor is the cost of many lives. So that's one thing. So another example I can give is like a teacher. Losing one teacher means losing a lot of potentially excellent students as well. Yes, it is just one teacher, but we have to be aware that one person is more important, more influential than we think we are, right? So yeah, an individual will make up a community. You influence the people around you, and then this community made up of individuals would contribute to the country. And then if you choose to stay in the country and then you try to develop it, you at the same time you influence the people around you to do so as well, and then like there's so much impact that you can make. It's just an individual, but we as a community influence each other. We are helping each other, and as a community we build up the country, and then we also help to develop it at the same time. So before I rest my case, I would like to I would like to emphasize our stance that is this house as a citizen of developing countries would choose to remain in the country rather than moving abroad as an expat because our country is very dear to us. With that, I rest my case.
Thank you, Sister Nisrina Nabiha. Now I call upon the second speaker of the opposition. Please welcome Sister Hanani to continue the case for their side. Please welcome.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, firstly, the propositions of the government today assume that individuals have the power to single-handedly drive the significant change in the countries I think, is a wrong thing to do. However, the reality is that systemic challenge such as the corruption, the political instability itself, and the limited education and resources from developing countries often hinder individual efforts to bring the transformation itself. So while citizens may have the best intentions and desire to develop their nation, they may face many barriers that prevent them from making a significant impact. So, as an opposition today, we strongly believe that individuals from developing countries should have the freedom to choose whether to remain in their home country because they don't owe anything to their countries because of their countries itself, the political stability, the economic development, the education itself in the developing countries doesn't give any outcome to the citizen itself. So, we recognize that many challenges faced by the individuals in the developing countries, including issues like corruption, slow economic growth, limited political change. However, we firmly believe that it is the right of every individual to seek better opportunities and improve their quality of life. Therefore, as a citizens, I think it's the right thing for the citizen itself to move into other countries as an expat to seek better opportunities and improve their quality of life. And it is principally the right things to do. So first, why I say it's a principally the right thing to do? Yeah, imagine you as the citizens of the developing countries. So your countries have political instability, the economy is not increasing, limited access to educations and other resources. So you want to do something for your family and yourself, right? So you want to go to other countries that are more developing and can help you enhance your social mobility, enhance your quality of life. So moving abroad as an expat provide individuals from developing countries with access to better economic opportunities, improve education systems, and overall enhance their social mobility. It allows the individual itself to seek better prospect for themselves and their families, given the challenges they face in the developing countries itself. So, firstly, economic opportunities. Moving abroad, they can offer individuals for the chance to secure higher paying jobs and access to more stable economies. So like this would improve their standard of living, even though they start off small and they start off like having a harsh life at the new countries. But for the long term, and when they work, they will enhance their future, they will enhance their quality of life. So secondly, education and skill development. So like many developed countries offer advanced educational systems and training programs that can enhance individual skills and knowledge. But by pursuing education abroad in developing countries, individuals can acquire valuable qualifications. So like what our citizens now in Malaysia doing, we studying abroad. Some of them, when they studying abroad, they get the certificates and they want to work abroad because they know that the payment they get is very different from what they get in their own countries. So next, social mobility. Moving abroad as an expat, it can provide individuals with the opportunity to escape their socio-economic problems. So they can achieve upward social mobility, allow them to break free from the constraints and their challenges in their home country. So why this is important? This is important because it is to recognize the desire of individuals, the citizens itself, to seek for a better life and overall enhance their quality of life. So it acknowledges the challenge that they face in their home countries, and also this emphasizes that the need for developing countries to address all the issues, all the problems that going on in their countries. So if the citizens itself just stay in the developing countries that doesn't have the effort to do the political to stable their politics, to enhance their economic growth, where the politicians or the government itself fail to do so, fail to uphold their duty. So when their citizen itself goes abroad as an expat, and that will make the countries itself, the developing countries itself, to finally realize that they need to improve. Okay. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Harnani. Now, let's welcome the third speaker of the government, Sister Shazia Sharminas, to the floor.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now we have talked about citizens moving in this abroad and all stuff in these by the previous debaters. Now, what we think, we government side think, or we government side want to emphasize is that they're like citizens, like we are trying to say is that citizens are preferred to stay in their country rather than moving abroad. We know that abroad, gives the citizens more opportunities to enhance their better to become better, to become rich and stuff. So they go abroad. Okay. So let's say there are some citizens who literally prefer to stay in this country because of their emotional attachment, as my first speaker has talked about, which is about the family emotions and the deep connections between them. So these citizens prefer to stay in their own country in order for this connection to be still there, even if even if they do go abroad. It's how do you say, it's gonna be like even if they go abroad, it's not that the connection is not going to be less or thing, but it's not going to be strong. So there's like students like me, we prefer to live with our families and stuff. So those kind of attachments still are necessary for some kind of citizens or individuals that really makes them stay in their own country. Now, before I speak into other stuffs, I would like to rebuttal some points that the leader of the opposition team had thought. You said there is no good quality of their own country. Okay. Now, country like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they are all developing countries, right? They even though they failed to provide it for the for the some amount of people, because of their economic stuffs, they try their maximum so that their nation is not going under utter poverty. Okay, there are people who is actually living in a good quality of life and prefers to stay in this country just because they want to enhance their life itself. So I don't think if like even if they the most thing the citizens prefer to go country is for working and stuff, as you have said, right? Doesn't mean that there is our government or our house is providing less quality. As we have said, citizens these individuals are being a bit more kind of a, selfish for themselves because they want their life to be more improvising and stuff. So yeah, so even if the government provides them a good quality of life, they still won't have to go abroad. There are citizens like that. So I don't think it's the government's fault too, because as you have said, it's the freedom of their individual choice. But as we are saying that there are mostly citizens who actually prefer to stay because of many reasons, as I'm going to talk about right now. Now, other thing I would like to say is that moving abroad is giving you high opportunities. Okay, I can understand that point because I am in Malaysia because I'm having a high opportunity here. But let me tell you that this government in these developing countries also having opportunities like that. But the thing is, since it is like a developing country and not a proper developed country, suppose like India, uh, like since even though they're like it's not like a very vast developed country, there are still opportunities open for these people, open for their citizens, but they fail to recognize, these citizens fail to recognize their own country's worth and value and opportunities. So they they go under this society, like they say, oh, okay, go to USA and they you have opportunities, and they go like that. So they don't value the opportunities that the government itself face. But when they value into their citizenship and stuff, they will actually prefer. And we have seen so many people in taking India itself, going for these high opportunity spaces, which is much more better than the abroad colleges, for example, for the medicinal purposes. Now, one task I spotted with both of our debate was that the freedom of the individual choice. We say that of course, citizens have the freedom to choose, like going abroad stuff. But there's, as I've said, as my PM has said, their emotional attachment prefers them to stay. One thing, and it's just that they don't understand. But when they come into understanding of their opportunities, they'll prefer to stay because they feel that it will be better than going abroad and facing those hardships. Now, one rebuttal I want to do is that they has to face challenges if they are in their hometown. Facing challenges happens anywhere. Now, let me tell you this: when they go abroad and stuff, we'll have more face challenges to face, because first thing, moving abroad, there are citizens or individuals who are literally scared to move abroad because of their introvert type of character, or like because they're scared. What if they judge us? Because being in a new country means a new world, new people. So that people might impose us maybe in a lower manner, or they might even don't even care because they are coming from that country. These kind of hardships are also faced by these individuals who are actually moving to a abroad country. So due to that fear, the people prefer to stay in their country and become happy for themselves. And facing challenges is all over the world. So I don't think moving abroad will make you face less challenges. Yeah. Now, the developing countries are trying to make it much more better for their citizens. So that is what it is called, a developing country. Now, so if a citizens understand the motive of the government, that they have these opportunities open for them, the citizen would actually prefer, and what we are trying to say. Now, we are told that our citizens are not, it's not a particular citizen who is single-handedly changing this country. We, as my PM has told, we are all like, if one person influences the other person, it's also like we are changing, we are helping our country itself to develop, so that there is a vast amount of opportunities and majority kind of how do you say in influencing stuff that helps Other people also recognize the importance of our country, which actually makes individuals stay in our country rather than going abroad and suffering in those new areas. Even though we say that they get rich in that areas, there are so many expats who are still suffering in those foreign countries and who want to still come back. So due to that kind of fear and stuff, the citizens prefer to stay in our country, in their own native country, and proud to propose.
All right, thank you, Sister Shazia Sharminas. Last but definitely not least, I welcome the third speaker from the opposition side, Brother Ami, to the floor. Please welcome.
Am I clear? All right, okay. So, I was starting in 3, 2, 1. From side government, it seems that there are people are so in love with the country until they are blinded to see what happens around them. All right, now let me get it simple. We understand that you love your dearest country, where you live, where you were born, but you need to accept the fact that when you are living in a developing country, you need to see the system around it. You need to see how the lifestyle around the developing country, which is not so good, if I have to say, okay? Now, moving to my rebuttal. So firstly, for the third speaker from the government side. Now, she gives an example of, citizenship from India. They go other places like Malaysia and UK to find jobs where they fail to recognize the government's position in which the government has give them. But let me tell you something. In India, they are a racist country. I'm not bluffing. In India, they have two types of classes, the higher classes and the lower class. That's all. The higher class controls mostly all of India, all right? The rich controls while they look down on the poor. Now, those who are poor, they don't fail to recognize that, but they recognize that if they were to work hard for the dearest country that they so love, they will not get a job there, all right? Because they know that the richest control it. And that's a fact about India because that's, you see India, how is India now? The rich controls while the poor remains poor. All right, now, and there's an issue where the third speaker claimed that those who expense are introverts. They don't think too much about whether this country will accept them, whether they can work hard. Now, the issue is here, you're taking a small population of those expense and making assumptions that how about the bigger, the other people who goes to another country and they succeeded. That's in our case, that is what we want to show, that if you want to increase your quality of life, you need to have some struggles, going overseas, going to developed countries, making connections, going to work, and increasing your social status there. All right. Now, moving on to your second speaker from the government side. Now, he said that, okay, responsibilities. If a teacher or a doctor leaves a country, a developing country, now who will teach the students? Who will save their lives? Now, let me tell you, I think my side of the opposition has said that in those developing countries, education is not much, all right? Doctors or teachers, okay, if they teach their children, they expect them to become a great person in the future. But in these developing countries, like my opposition leader said, the government is controlled by corruption, controllees. So how do the teachers expect their students to succeed in this such of state? The teachers, of course, said, why I'm teaching? The students here are going to end up, just as normal as other people. They can't, really develop the country because of the status of the government in that particular area. All right. And how about doctors? Okay, doctors, okay, maybe you can say they save millions of lives, but does it mean that if they go other else, they will still doing the same thing, saving millions of lives? In that country, if their health insurance or healthcare is not so developed, so the doctors may be seeing the same patients. Doctors cure patients in order for them to live a long and healthy life, not seeing them often because that system, that country has a poor healthcare. All right. Now, and regarding the first speaker, which is connections to the family in their original country. I think I can give a, is there no solution like you can, bring your family together and go to another country, like rather than you miss your family, you go alone. How about you bring your whole family? In that way, you're not only increasing your quality of life, but also your family quality of life in that developed country. And you said about strong connection towards the country. Yes, like I said in my opening line, yes, we love our country that we born, we live, but we need to face the fact of reality that developing countries will not give us something back. All right, they don't have that much education, the work, the salary. So for us to have a strong connection there, that's not really, it's not quite strong, because for us to have a strong connection, we need to have something that we really know we can live on it, right? And that in that particular particular developing country, we don't have something, right? We can say you have your family, but I give a solution that go with your family, go to other countries, live your life in another country with your family in a good way, in more good. All right. Now, and she also said about security and comfort. In most developing countries, we know that financial, like my secretary said, financial is an issue right there. Now, if you have a financial problem, then technically your crime rates will also increase, because people want to get money, people do crime so to get money. So how can you say for certain that you have a sense of security and comfort when you are living in a developing country, right? And there's an issue here I want to bring up, that when more people live in that country, I think I heard this, the tax payment will decrease. How is that even possible? Tax are not based on how many people live in a country, but is based on how the government decides tax, the percentage of tax is to a person. All right, not by how many people. All right, and the last thing I want to rebut is, he said that, okay, when you work at your developed country, you reduce the labor. All right, okay, that is true, but there is an issue here. In your world, when you do labor in your country, your salary, I must say, is not so good. Rather than you go to another country, a developed country, and you do the same labor and you get a much higher salary, a much more worthy salary for your hard work. All right. So I think that's all from me. With that, I'm proud to oppose. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brother Ami. Now, it is time for the preparation of reply speeches. The time given for each team will be 1 minute. Debaters, please use the 1 minute to prepare your reply speeches. It is now the time for the reply speeches. The time given for the reply speeches is 4 minutes, starting with the first oppositions. Please welcome the opposition summary speaker, Sister Hanani. Please welcome.
Okay. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today, the government overlooks the fact that development requires a collective effort from various stakeholders, including the government, the businesses, civil society, and international collaborations. It is not solely the responsibility of individuals, citizens itself to bear the burden of development, but rather a shared things to do that require strategies, effective policies, and institutional support. So like the government today said that the citizens itself have attachment issues with their family, so they choose to stay with their family and not to go abroad as an expat. So many individuals who leave their home countries as expat maintain strong ties and continue to contribute development of their nation in various ways. Like if we love our family so much, if the citizen itself love the family so much and love the country itself, this is the right thing to do. He or she has to go abroad and expats and improve and enhance their quality of life. So the choice to move abroad could not be seen as a betrayal or lack of patriotism. It is individuals' personal decisions to seek better opportunities, and it is principally the right things to do. So it is crucial to acknowledge that individuals who choose to move abroad as expats often maintain strong connections with their home countries. Many expats come back home with the money, and yes, they want to enhance their quality of life. So we believe that individuals have the freedom to make choices that are their best interests, including their decisions to move abroad as an expat. Not only a means to enhance their quality of life, but also the way to contribute to the development of their home countries through remittance, knowledge transfers, or global perspectives. So restricting their choices would limit personal growth and potentially hinder the overall development of their nations. So we urge you to consider that the importance of individual agency and the potential benefits that can arise from individual choosing to go abroad as an expat is a good thing. And as the opposition side today, we believe that it is moving abroad as an expat is the only way to ensure the quality of the person's life gonna be enhanced. And principally, this is the right thing to do. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Hanani. Welcome the last speaker of the government, Sister Nisrina Nabiha, to sum up for their team and the debate as a whole. Please welcome.
I'm sorry, there is a little bit of problem from our side. Our second speaker is in a little bit of half problem. So if it's okay, if we change the speaker that give the reply speech, I will be given the reply speech. I am the first speaker.
Right. So Sister Atika Natasha, right?
Yes, that's right.
All right. Please welcome.
Okay, so I'll start my speech in 1, 2, 3. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I'm again returned to the floor to give the speech. Okay. So first of all, what we are trying to emphasize in our world is that citizens choose to stay to contribute to the country of their native. We believe that the position and jobs of every social members are equally important. We are trying to emphasize that it's a good thing they choose to stay at the developing country in the developing country. Okay, so in the case of education, the teachers are not at wrong for wanting the brighter future for young generations. They are not at fault for having faith in teaching these students to succeed. Because if they have succeed, then it will be a development for the country. It's a ridiculous thing to just leave these young students to rot because in your judgment, they are not gonna propose any purpose for the country to develop. We are not gonna say that it's an obligation for every citizens and individuals as possible to stay at your native country to contribute in order to make the country develop, but rather we are just as a citizen, we are just as a citizen gonna encourage every chance possible in order for developing countries, in order to let these developing countries have a chance to develop to the same level as other developed countries too. Okay, where are we gonna try to emphasize that in our world, we we uh, we just encourage these citizens to stay in their own country because of the strong emotional connection they have that they share with their family members and communities. It's a good thing to have that. Some people choose to stay with their family because this sense of belonging to their country. Okay, in our world too, citizens that choose to stay to contribute to the country, no matter their role in society, will influence the condition of the country. A citizen can provide back to their own country in order to develop. You're supporting your country in order for it to develop. By staying in their native developing country, individuals can contribute to development of a lot of things, of their local economy, society, culture, etc. These are the people who are willing to give and try to change for the betterment of their country. We are not these developing countries wrought to not develop at all. We are trying to encourage. We as a citizen have a chance to also encourage other citizens and individuals to make up as a community that would like to contribute to our country for the betterment of us, for the future of us. Okay, we, the government, are some of the individuals and citizens that would like to stay and contribute back to our country because we see the chance of betterment of our country. Yes, we are only an individual, but we are more important than we think. We as individuals will make up a community that would, even though it's not an obligation, it's a chance that we should take in order for our beloved country to develop for the betterment of our future. Before I sit down, I would like to emphasize again that we gladly propose this motion because we stand with our stance that our country is dear to us. With that being said, thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers for the great debate. Josh, you are given 5 minutes to fill in the marking form, and then we'll continue with your verbal adjudications.
Yeah, I think I can give the verbal education now. Sorry, I bit my tongue, so my pronunciation is a bit bad. Okay, can everyone hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll just announce the winner first. The winner for this is side opposition. Okay, on a comfortable margin, and the reasons are as follows. I saw a few points of contentions, right? So 3 in particular. Number 1 is the contention between quality of life being equal to more than just economics and finances versus an increase in economic quality of life will result necessarily in the increase of quality of life in general. Okay, so I saw a little bit of, so that was the contention. But I felt that on this point, although the concept, the government had it better, but the development of the idea was done better by the opposition. Okay, why? Because, for example, I wanted more from the government in terms of building why strong emotional connections and strong connection to identity sources as culture and history is extremely important to the individual. How is that important to the individual? Perhaps, paint me a picture of how, if someone is detached from all of these things, detached from identity sources, for example, a Korean who is detached from the palace in Seoul, for example, it means that he loses an essential part of himself and he has to assimilate to another country and lose that identity, and how that can be detrimental to his mental health and things like that. So if you had developed that more, it would have been more convincing. But in essence, I accepted the framing of the opposition because they managed to show is that that through this economic well-being that is seemingly lacking in the developing world, you can get that in overseas or in developed countries. Okay, and then you are able to also access, you are able to, because of this access to money, you can criticize the government, you can have financial security, you can protect yourself and your wealth or in these developed countries, and in essence you can just bring yourself out of this harm. So I did not see any contention to this idea. So you could have contended, the government could have contended those ideas, but did not. So therefore, I had to accept the opposition's framing in this sense, right? Okay. Secondly, is the point of contention of just what is better for the citizen. Do note that the motion is as a citizen of developing countries. You are speaking from the perspective of a citizen. You are not speaking from the perspective of the country. Okay, so I saw a little bit of, so for example, so here I can see that the opposition was trying to argue that you will have enhanced social mobility, you have access to higher paying jobs, you'll be able to break free from typical challenges that you face in the home countries because of corruption and things like that through access to all of these higher paying jobs. So there was no effort to break this idea down, whether this is true or not. Okay, especially in today's world, there are many instances that you can point to that can break this logic down, that this is not necessarily true. Just because you go overseas does not necessarily mean that you will have a better life. But there was no contention on that. But rather, I saw that the government accepted, oh yeah, it's bad. Okay, it's bad, and so therefore the people, or rather the citizens, should do it not because they think about themselves, but they think about the country. I think that can be an argument, but it's not an argument to be made in this debate, because this debate is you should be speaking from the perspective of a citizen of the country. Okay, so that is something that if I could comment on. All right, and finally, it's about obligation, right? To me, this argument about obligation is the least important, but okay, we'll address that. So the obligation is from government side, love for country and a certain obligation to your fellow countrymen. Okay, so, and therefore it means an obligation to stay, versus what the opposition brought forth, which is that there is no obligation to stay because government did not commit to the end of their social contract. Okay, so even on this matter, I am more inclined to believe what was brought forth by the opposition. Okay, for a few reasons. Because they provided me reasons as to why I can believe that that was the case, that the governments of developing countries in general do not fulfill their end of social contract. Okay, they pointed towards how most developing countries are post-colonial, struggling with democracy, and therefore oftentimes unstable. Okay, and and therefore it's not good for them. Okay, therefore every man is out for himself, so therefore they have to commit to themselves. Okay, on the other side, the only thing that I heard from government is that, oh, love for country. But what is the basis of this love for country? What is this basis for an obligation to your fellow countrymen? So you could have argued, perhaps, for example, the idea of, okay, I have an obligation to my fellow countrymen, because through this obligation to my fellow countrymen, we can build the country together, and there is more potential in a developing country than there is potential in a developed country. For example, could have gone that way. So the argument should be built towards arguing that it is good for you as a citizen. This obligation to your fellow countrymen is good for you as a citizen. Why is it good for you to develop the economy of your own country? Why is it good for you as an individual? That argument was missing from what I could see. Okay. So on that note, I think I gave the win comfortably to the opposition. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I think no questions.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you,
Thank
judges.
you.
So congratulations to all debaters and thank you to our judge. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.